Listen to what he said.
I'd like to say to Bo right now, who's having trouble speaking English, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Zayabayem. I'm your father, Bo. The people of Afghanistan, the same.
Let's go to 2011, and he put together a video. In this, he mentions, again, the Quran, Assalamu alaikum, a number of times. Here's part of what he said.
Strangely to some, we must also thank those who have cared for our son for almost 2 years. Mullah Sanjin, the Haqqanis, and others who have played a role in sheltering the American prisoner. We know our son is a prisoner and at the same time a guest in your home. We have wept that God may show his beneficence, his mercy, and that his peace may come upon the people of Pakistan. Assalamu alaikum. Dare me shibo. Assalamu alaikum.
And earlier he said, you have lost much, and I feel sorry for your loss. But the loss he's talking about are those terrorists that want to kill Americans.
This seems very upsetting, and for anybody who has lost a child that was on a mission that potentially was to recover him, it's very upsetting, and there needs to be some sensitivity here. But I will also say that these videos he's making are propaganda, just like the videos that were made of Bo Bergdahl by the Taliban. Those are propaganda. So
that would be applicable to 2011, but not necessarily the Rose Garden, right?
Right. This has got to be very offensive to people who've lost their children, their fathers, their husbands, their brothers, their sisters. This has got to be very offensive to them. It's certainly to anyone who's served. It's offensive to see this.
And this is in June of 2009. The U.S. Army is the biggest joke the world has to laugh at. It is the army of liars, backstabbers, fools, and bullies. And it goes on to say the few good sergeants are getting out as soon as they can, and they're telling us privates to do the same. And then he tweeted and then he also said, New York Post reported that I'm sorry for everything here. These people need help, yet what they get is the most conceited country in the world telling them that they are nothing, that they are stupid. I'm ashamed to be an American, and the title of U.S. soldier is just a lie of fools. I'm sorry for everything, the horror that America is disgusting. We lost 6 Americans looking for what is a deserter by every indication, and everybody that was looking for him, I've talked to these guys. It was well known that he was a deserter. Was that a mistake, A, to make this trade, and B, to go out searching for them when 6 Americans then lost their life?
This looks really, really bad. I mean, this is something that, any parent who has lost a child, this is something that's going to be very upsetting. And, if you remember, his father also wrote back to him in an email, quote, obey your conscience. That's 3 days before he left. This is such a problem because we worked so hard to find these guys, to capture them, to keep them off the battlefield.
People died finding them.
Exactly, and for them to go right back out there.
Well, put these 5 back up.
A year's nothing.
My prediction, and I pray that I'm wrong, my prediction is all 5 of these go back to the battlefield. That's why they were hand-chosen by the Taliban.
Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle have questioned the president's trade of terrorists for Army Sergeant Bo Bergdahl. Harry Reid's not one of them. He's targeting the questioners.
Opponents of President Obama have seized upon the release of an American prisoner of war, that's what he was, using what should be a moment of unity and celebration of our nation as a chance to play political games. The safe return of American soldiers should not be used for political points.
Now, Harry's happy about the prisoner swap, and here's why.
Guantanamo has been there far too long. I'm glad to get rid of these 5 people, send them back to Qatar.
An American soldier stars in a Taliban propaganda video one last time, while the White House clarifies its characterization of his service.
Good evening, Brett. It's not unusual for the Taliban to videotape moments such as this and turn them into propaganda for their followers, painting this prisoner exchange as a victory, to quote their leader, Mullah Omar.
In the video released by the Taliban, Sergeant Bo Bergdahl blinks rapidly as his captor approaches his vehicle to say goodbye. His eyes appear to be adjusting to sunlight, suggesting he was blindfolded moments before. The 17-minute video shows a Taliban fighter holding a white flag as they approach a Black Hawk helicopter. The U.S. team shake hands with the Taliban during the handover. As they turn to leave, they pat Bergdahl down to make sure he is not armed or wearing a suicide bomber's vest. Before he is handed over, a member of the Taliban is heard telling Bergdahl in Pashto, "Don't come back to Afghanistan." Another then laughed, "You won't make it out alive next time." A now classified internal Army investigation in 2010 says Bergdahl had walked off his base at least once before his capture out of boredom, according to members of his unit interviewed at the time by military investigators. Those unit members are now describing what they learned in those initial days of their search.
We heard over the radio chatter that there was an American looking for someone who spoke English so he could talk to the Taliban. We knew at that point he had already walked away, but now we knew that he was attempting to contact the Taliban on his own accord.
Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel responded to accusations that soldiers were killed looking for Bergdahl.
I do not know of specific circumstances or details of U.S. soldiers dying as a result of efforts to find and rescue Sergeant Bergdahl.
U.S. officials have defended their decision to fast-track a prisoner exchange.
The fact that his health was deteriorating, it was the right thing to do to take action to secure his release.
Pentagon officials who have seen the proof-of-life videos intercepted in January say those videos showed Bergdahl to be in declining health, but medical experts question that.
Looking at the latest video of Bo Bergdahl, I can say with medical certainty, as a practicing physician, that he appears to be in excellent health right now without signs that he's malnourished.
Bergdahl was pronounced by military doctors to be in stable condition shortly after arriving at Landstuhl, Germany. Bergdahl still has not talked to his parents, but Secretary Hagel called them earlier today, Brett.
This prisoner swap story, which could turn out to be the result of a huge political miscalculation. And the White House is trying to explain what National Security Advisor Susan Rice really meant on a Sunday talk show when she praised Sergeant Bergdahl's military service. Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry is traveling with the president tonight in Brussels, Belgium.
This was supposed to be a sweet day for President Obama, meeting a candy magnate who's become president-elect of Ukraine, known as the Willy Wonka of an aspiring nation, followed by a rousing speech in Poland honoring the 25th anniversary of Solidarity.
Today we reaffirm the principles for which we stand.
Instead, the president is still dogged by allegations that he abused his power by swapping 5 Taliban commanders for Bo Bergdahl, with Republican Lindsey Graham charging the president wanted a twofer, announce an end to the war in Afghanistan, and then go to the Rose Garden to tout a public relations win.
That was thought in their mind, I think, to be a pretty good political story for that week. It blew up in their face.
Top aides sharply deny that, saying the administration was motivated by getting an American home, and it's unseemly for Republicans to slam a soldier.
Using what should be a moment of unity and celebration of our nation as a chance to play political games.
Top officials also say the president stands by the decision on the merits, even though he knew it would be controversial. And controversial it is, with a new Fox poll showing fully 84% of voters are concerned that making deals with terrorists will encourage those groups to take more American soldiers hostage, including a 57% majority that is very concerned and another 27% that's somewhat concerned. And by a decisive 20 percentage point margin, Americans think the country is weaker under the president's leadership. 55% of voters say the administration has made America weaker. 35% say the country is stronger. The president is also taking on water from allies of Hillary Clinton, who leaked a story to the Daily Beast revealing the former Secretary of State, who had negotiated the prisoner swap at earlier stages, was deeply skeptical it could be enforced, though in public she's being diplomatic.
That's why I named my book Hard Choices.
Meanwhile, the administration is trying to clean up National Security Advisor Susan Rice's latest slip-up on a Sunday show when she told ABC News Bergdahl had served with honor and distinction. An official telling Fox Rice meant Bergdahl had volunteered for service and had endured 5 years of captivity and was not trying to characterize the circumstances of his capture.
Either she doesn't know her facts or she doesn't know how to string together accurate sentences. But she's creating huge headaches for the administration.
Former Secretary Clinton is also clarifying tonight, a spokesman telling Fox that she never rejected a prison swap deal, but set a high bar for the terms of such a deal.
Half of those surveyed in that new Fox News poll say detainees at Guantanamo Bay get better health care than U.S. military veterans. Only 3 in 10 disagree.
But there's compelling evidence the sergeant is a deserter and maybe a collaborator. So why is Ambassador Rice misleading the world yet again? We will have a factor investigation.
Before he left, I mean, we'd have IEDs go off, virtually every day, but they were going off in front of the trucks. Following his disappearance, IEDs started going off directly under the trucks.
The prisoner swap chaos continues. There's a classified report about Sergeant Bergdahl possibly collaborating with the Taliban. And some soldiers in his unit believe he did that.
I strongly believe that we should have been consulted, that the law should have been followed.
Even some Democratic senators are furious that President Obama did not consult with Congress before releasing 5 Taliban war criminals. It is becoming clear that the Obama administration severely miscalculated reaction to trading a suspected deserter, Sergeant Bo Bergdahl, for 5 Taliban war criminals. The president in Europe this week is getting pounded from all sides. Here's powerful Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein.
The concerns were bipartisan, and I strongly believe that we should have been consulted, that the law should have been followed, and I very much regret that that was not the case.
To be fair, some Democrats are standing behind the president. Senator Harry Reid leads the league in that department.
Opponents of President Obama have seized upon the release of an American prisoner of war, that's what he was, using what should be a moment of unity and celebration of our nation as a chance to play political games.
But this story is much more than political gamesmanship. Sergeant Bergdahl definitely deserted his post. There's no question about that. Here he is in release video. He's blinking because he was probably blindfolded. There's a Taliban captor walking him over to the U.S. forces over the weekend. Bergdahl may have even collaborated with the enemy, the Taliban. That has been investigated, and there is a classified report on the situation. Yesterday at the State Department, spokesperson Marie Harf was besieged with questions.
You've had all this time, 5 years, to determine whether he was a deserter or not. That's a long time.
He's been in captivity, Lucas. I think he's probably the person who knows best what happened on that night.
Well, I think his squad mates have the best indication what happened.
I don't think that that's the case.
Ms. Harf's entitled to her opinion, but public opinion has definitely turned against the sergeant and the swap in general. In a Rasmussen poll, 43% of Americans now oppose the swap. 40% say it's okay. 17%, a big number, don't know. And that number is going to change. More will come out against. Wait and see. Talking Points believes that Sergeant Bergdahl and his father Robert opposed America's presence in Afghanistan. There is enough evidence to prove that. Question is how far did Sergeant Bergdahl take his dissent? The military should investigate that to its fullest extent. Now on to the big picture. Once again, the Obama administration has botched an important decision. Even the president admits the 5 released Taliban war criminals might kill again. And his administration has embarrassed itself by saying Sergeant Bergdahl served with honor. He did not. Whatever the circumstances, what he did, leaving his unit, was wrong. So, this is another big mess for which Mr. Obama is directly responsible. Is his administration at the tipping point? I believe it is.
All 5 were classified as high risks to U.S. interests and our allies during their time at Guantanamo. Even the New York Daily News, typically a big supporter of the administration, expressed concerns on its front page today. Look at this, saying, quote, President Obama betrayed the highest obligation of his office, safeguarding national security.
There's always a risk. You weren't going to get something for nothing. There's been a risk with the 500 people that Bush let out. So, yes, there has been a risk. But what I'm saying here is the risk to Americans is minimal with these people. Plus, they've been out of action for 12 years. They're not even keeping up with the tactics that's gone on.
I mean, they can get briefed on. All these guys are in their 40s. Bin Laden was 54 when he was killed. They're still vibrant men.
I understand that, but they've been out of action for 12 years. Bin Laden was not out of action for 12 years when he was plotting.
Come on, Larry, you are smarter than that. Come on, there's no way you really believe, because they were in Gitmo for the last 10 to 13 years, that they're out of it now. Suddenly, it made them love us more. So while they wanted to kill us 12 years ago, they spent some time at Gitmo on the soccer fields, and suddenly they love Americans.
I didn't say that. I said that they're not keeping up with the tactics that the Taliban are using.
Who cares? It's the motivation that matters.
The motivation to do what? They have to have the skills. Okay, there's a lot of people have bad motivations.
I'm sure Mullah Omar would be more than happy to sit down with them and go over the briefing manual on how to kill Americans.
wait a second, but the American, by the time they get back there, we're not going to be fighting there anymore. You seem to be missing that.
You seem to be missing the fact that we weren't fighting in Afghanistan prior to 9/11, and nonetheless they got together and harbored the terrorists who killed 3,000 Americans. Just because we don't have boots on the ground there doesn't mean they don't want to kill us.
They were directly working with al-Qaeda when they planned the 9/11 attacks. The al-Qaeda would not have been able to carry out 9/11 had it not been for the support of the Taliban.